name's Beth Bareham, and I once breathalyzed my granddad. So this wasn't strictly part of my work, and it certainly wasn't anything that the University Ethics Board was likely to allow me to do for my work, but it was a bit of a side effect. So I look at what older people think about their drinking for my PhD. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today, about what I get up to, and hopefully challenge your expectations a little along the way. So, just to introduce myself a little bit, I am a bit of a Hermione. I always like to be right. Now, I know that I've lost half of you already, because nobody likes a know-it-all. So I found that PhDs were this thing where you become the most right in the whole world about your topic. Turns out, I found a topic where everybody else is right. Anything that they say is right, and everything that I think is wrong, because I'm not an older person who drinks. Now, maybe this was some weird kind of challenge for me. Maybe I thought that one day I will be the most right. Not for another 40 years, Beth. So I do interviews as part of my work, and in one of these interviews, I really put my foot in it. Now, hopefully at this point, my friends will be thinking, Beth, put a foot in it? No. So this poor guy was using his best mental arithmetic to count up his units for me. And meanwhile, an angry, restless rightness was brewing up inside me as my inner Hermione raised her hand and started to squeal. Now, I created a point in this discussion that we almost couldn't recover from. I told him he was wrong. I told him that he was drinking too much. I may as well have called him a murderer. Turns out that this is not how you speak to older people about their drinking, or indeed anybody. Sorry, I drink a lot. I've got my granddad's memory, seriously. Okay, so this is not how we speak to older people about their drinking. Older people are responsible drinkers, and you work with that, and you never, ever suggest otherwise. So as researchers, we're a very self-critical bunch, and this is just one instance of me trying to get over this incident. In another instance, I was speaking to a colleague who's a sociologist. Now, I think that sociologists are quite cool people. Sociologists seem to know what to say. I would identify more as a health psychologist. Now, I don't get the impression that people like health psychologists very much. We're a bit like a puppy that's rolled in the mud. We want to be involved with everything, but nobody wants a lot to do with us. So this sociologist, he said to me, well, who even counts their units anyway? Well, I do. And everybody else is around me. You're giving me a bit of a run for my money tonight. Or should I say your money, seeing as you actually paid to see this. So things that I've learned during my PhD. Tact. I have had to learn to stifle my inner Hermione, but not before breathalyzing my granddad. So during all of my days spent at the desk reading, I've actually learned quite a lot about alcohol, and it's not through anything that I've been keeping in my drawer. So my colleagues will know, from watching me around the office, that I tend to walk into most things. It kind of made sense that I tripped over things when I first came here. So it's a source of great amusement among my friends that I'm even allowed to drive in the first place. So I could not drink then drive, not a drop. So imagine my awe when my granddad rocks up to the dining room table with a whole glass. This can't be right. So we agreed that I would breathalyze him. Had to make yourself dizzy. how sorry I was. Not only does my granddad get to have more fun than his 25-year-old granddaughter, but I was wrong. Now, this isn't something that many PhD students are very good at. So, this whole project has been a bit of a case of challenging expectations. And contrary to the expectations of myself, my supervisors, and the whole of the NHS Ethics Board, this has been a bleak and misty ethical minefield. And I wanted to draw in just one example to show you quite how wrong your expectations can be. Not part of the act. So I got this group of older ladies into the general hospital, all in the late 80s, to talk about what they consider around the drinking. Turned out that being in the hospital wasn't one of those things. They brought a bottle of wine along for the occasion. I kid you not. So my research is supposed to be very much on the fence. So I thought that it would be unethical, ethical? It wouldn't be ethical not to allow them to have a taste when they asked. And so begins the no man's land of ethics. Turns out that some of the tastes were quite a big taste, because not everybody counts the units apparently. And some of my participants reported leaving the room, and I quote, rather tiddly. But I got this on tape, so silver linings. So why do older people drink? Well, some older people drink because they're low or because they're lonely, and this is no laughing matter. But what a lot of my participants have been telling me is that they drink because they're having a blooming good time. Now, this makes me wish that I'd done an ethnography, because then I'd get to join in. Unfortunately, this isn't what the Daily Mail or the rest of the internet like to portray. They prefer the miserable and/or blotto version of older drinkers. And this isn't something that gels particularly well with what I'm trying to present. So Google has not been my friend. As it happens, my granddad is. So it's a bit of a running joke in our department how many times I can fit my granddad into a single presentation. And I think that the running total is somewhere in the late 20s. So it's kind of understandable that my supervisors suggested that I tone this down a little bit. But I thought that I'd give my granddad at least 8 of his 15 minutes of fame first. So after a period of months in which my granddad point blank refused to have anything to do with the project, truly believing that I was trying to out him and all of his friends to the whole world as alcoholics, my granddad has finally settled into life as my poster boy. So let me leave you tonight by challenging you to challenge your own expectations about older people's drinking. And I double dare you to breathalyze your granddad. Thank you.